we will be a party that governs for every New Zealander. We are living in an increasingly polarised world, a place where more and more people have lost the ability to see one another's point of view. As a nation, we can listen and we can debate. After all, we are too small to lose sight of other people's perspective. Elections aren't always great at bringing people together, but they also don't need to tear one another apart.
But in my mind, so long as there's people who are eligible who haven't been vaccinated, we've got work to do. I don't think I'll ever be satisfied so long as there's someone who is eligible and hasn't been. And that's why I've said this, there's not going to be an end point to this vaccination program.
Awesome work, guys. Good for you. Too right. Good on you, guys. Good on.
Start with this news piece, which I think is very, very important. Basically, the whole point of this video is that election 2020 with COVID-19 restrictions, the worst campaign environment ever, especially when you've got perspective that is censored by the big giants. Now, we've just had Twitter recently change their CEOs, and with that, the suppression of dissenting voices on the right wing have been just wiped off Twitter. And a lot of other people, even on the left, are now getting in trouble for their violent rhetoric, which a lot of them deserve it, especially since they're willing to just laugh at, as conservatives wiped off Twitter previously before for saying pretty much nothing. Well, some people just actually do say nothing. They just follow the wrong people and just poof, gone. And then, of course, Facebook has always been suppressing voices they don't like, and with that, and YouTube's doing that, and with Google and Facebook being a major part of the ad campaigns for these political parties, and only certain things that comply with the regulations being allowed to do it, without people being able to actually meet in person, campaign in person, and be able to display their ideas fully and discuss these ideas with people in effective campaigns, they are completely hindered to effectively campaign in a democratic society. And this is not even to start on the fact that elected officials that have decided not to have the vaccination, which is their right. People have the right to refuse medical treatment. People have the right, and on top of that, there's a more innate right, a natural God-given right for people to have full autonomy over their bodies. This is not being me pro-choice, because of course, when you perform an abortion, you are destroying the life of another, which means you're infringing on that individual's rights. It's a discussion for another time though. The most important thing here is that people who are actually exercising their rights, the governments of the day, are not respecting those rights. And so the 2020 election is just a taste. It's a small taste of what is actually going to happen with this traffic light system. If this traffic light system is still enact when the next election comes on, or if we're still having these lockdowns when the next election comes on, it's just going to continue. And this is not my disagreement. It's not just with the Labour Party here. It's with ACT. It's with National. It's with Greens. And it's with Labour. Labour has the biggest benefit because they managed to get the most eyeballs and fully control, and they've got the establishment with these restrictions in place. And in fact, it is already affecting our democracy, and not just that people are being barred from exercising their duty as an elected official when they're being trespassed from a council venue because they're unvaccinated. If a vaccine actually is some sort of magical shield that stops you from spreading coronavirus, rubbish. The laughable thing about this is that people think that National Act will actually solve this whole issue. They won't. ACT has been responsible for so much policy that Labour is pushing through. And they take pride in it. Oh yes, Labour's implementing this. We advised them to do this ages ago. They didn't do it because they, wanted to be their policy. It's like, I'll proudly say, yeah, ACT put that through. Yeah, go on, David, take credit for that rubbish thing that's actually infringing on our rights. ACT for freedom. Good job, David. Good job. And then national. People who think Luxon will do any better. I don't think so. National, as one of the biggest parties in Parliament, has absolutely failed and floundered because they don't want to be, branded as, some sort of nutjob party for going against these insane restrictions and these infringement on people's rights. Every major party in Parliament right now does not respect people's rights. And that includes the right to assemble, okay? When people are protesting, oh, why are you protesting in this environment? You're risking the spread of coronavirus. How are you not doing that? You're joking, right? That's a crucial element. The thing is, when people are being kicked off online, oh, you could just organise online. How? Where? How do people reach out? How do people effectively campaign and join together as a united political movement in a democratic society when the oppression online is as bad as the oppression in real life? And I'm not saying that as hyperbolic. This is the reality we're living in. And everyone in the nation is just smiling. Taking the approach of focusing more on what's going to happen down the track. And a lot of people are panicking and going like way down the track to what happens if it continues down the current directory at a certain rate and the leaders decide to do some atrocious things. I'm just concerned about, okay, can we have our voice in the middle of this exponential thing that people are panicking is going to happen and not staying calm? You need to maintain a calm head. Okay, can we actually have our effective say in this process? Or are we fully being censored out of existence? And the answer to that is pretty obvious. Opposition to this is being heavily censored. Heavily. And the government laughs it off all the time. So this is the major concern I have, which is the real reason this video is taking place, is because when I was campaigning with the New Conservative Party, in 2020, it was an absolute pain. We were stopped from effective campaigning for like a solid election, basically. If you're a smaller voice and you don't have the funding of a big party, if you don't have the government funding for TV ads like these big players do because of the percentage, that's the thing. Labour's going to get heaps of government funding for their ads for TV. Heaps of it. In addition to already being the established government and then abusing government funding for policy awareness or whatever, which they've already been caught doing. They've already been. I hope this underdog story actually turns out good for the underdogs and we don't just have all our rights steamrolled and Labour gets their socialist dream. Now people will criticise, Labour's more neoliberal. It's like, yeah, because that's how you can actually maintain the nation. If they were to try to go socialist now, the whole thing would collapse. They've got to maintain they've got to do a slow encroachment, otherwise there'll be a big collapse. That's how it works. But at a certain point they just go boom. And the scary thing about that, the way that Labour has gotten comfortable with abusing the urgency process and abusing the parliamentary system when they've got the solid majority and not doing the consultation community process, even though they'll ignore it anyway. That's the thing. So Labour got used to ignoring people's legitimate committee submissions and just we don't agree with that. That's rubbish. We won't even change our law just a little bit to accommodate that one concern, which is legitimate. No, we'll just do what we want to do anyway, and we'll just use the submissions in favour to just support what we're doing and just ignore those opposed and not adjust any law at all, as atrocious as the Labour Party's laws already are, of course. So once they got used to just ignoring people in the committee process and stuff, well, they had Winston with them. You know, when they still had to actually follow a bit of protocol because they had to actually have support from other parties to do stuff. As soon as they're gone, because of the election 2020 with the COVID-19 restrictions, which Winston is, you know, your fault, Winston, ha 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 ha, suffer. But at the same time, Winston's concerns, especially recent, he's been speaking up because he's got nothing better to do, because he needs to try to stay relevant. But he's too little too late, Winston, pretty much. You should have done it when you actually had power to stop it. But you didn't. Now we're all living with the consequences of that. But so once they didn't need the party support, right? They then started to just massively abuse the process. Oh, we need this under urgency. The thing is, they knew they needed to do stuff months before they needed to do it. If you fully agree with their position, they should have been preparing to do this for months in advance. Oh, we didn't know this would happen. Are you kidding me? You just look to where the other panicking nations are overseas, and you see what maybe you should be implementing, and think these laws through properly to get solid law. But they don't. They just abuse the urgency and leave these opposition parties, as weak as they are, to try oppose them in a couple of hours or days or whatever. And then just do the whole parliamentary theatre. You know, they're just sitting in there for a little private little meetings and they think, oh, do this, do this, do this. Good fun, yeah?
So this is a document that has been put out by the Ministry of Health, and it's an important one because it basically talks about the right for all people, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, to continue to receive medical care and to be able to go to hospital and be able to go to medical centres. And so let's take a look at just what it says. It's called the Position Statement on Pre-Consultation Testing of Unvaccinated Individuals in a Health Setting. And it makes some interesting statements, good statements. Access to healthcare is a fundamental right, and that an individual seeking healthcare cannot be refused care because of their beliefs. So there's that first mention of testing. The difference in the risk of transmission between vaccinated and unvaccinated people will be negligible. Interesting. When there is high COVID-19 vaccine coverage, i.e. above 80% of eligible people are fully vaccinated, as in New Zealand, in most areas, transmission is more likely to occur from a vaccinated than an unvaccinated individual. So apparently the statements in this Ministry of Health document go contrary to the vaccine mandate. That raises some issues. Look, I'm not an immunologist. I'm not a medical professional. I just want the best advice for my family and for the community. And if it has to fit within this mandate, then are we moving away from the science? So let's look a little bit further. If you now go to the website, you will find that, whoops, that document has actually disappeared. And a new one has been released, an updated version 2. And so let's just have a quick check about what it says. It says that testing, denying access to healthcare on the basis of vaccination status is unacceptable. Great statement. Vaccination status is one of many risk factors for infection and transmission. Unvaccinated patients who contract COVID-19 pose a high risk to themselves and to others. However, there is no evidence that the routine application of an approach incorporating pre-consultation testing is justified, which is kind of an interesting statement. Current evidence does not support classifying unvaccinated individuals as being in a group that should be routinely tested prior to a consultation to the exclusion of others. Well, that's good. Everybody should be able to get medical care. But, you know, part of the problem is that the second document excluded anything to do with testing. And yet there seems to be this acknowledgement that testing actually gives you the most up-to-date status of a patient coming in. I mean, that's my layman's understanding.
But, you know, when we think about where we finished, it was the year of the vaccine, and to finish with, you know, rates in the mid-90% mark for first dose, 85% for Māori, over 90% for Pacific I'm really proud of what New Zealand's done.
I'm really proud that I managed to coerce so many people.
Because those are rates that, at the beginning, I'm not sure I would have predicted we could get there.
Just say that given boosters look like they're going to be required, that mandates and vax certificates could be around for quite a while.
Oh, look, so much depends on the evolution of this pandemic. I mean, gosh, we'll soon see soon enough, I believe, what Omicron will mean for the world. There's a fatigue from COVID. I think in 2020, there was a sense of us, everyone rallying globally, a lot of cooperation towards vaccines and a lot of hope pinned around those. And then they arrived and Delta arrived. And I think everyone's...
Oh, I'm so sorry. Didn't they ride? Did Delta ride?
Particularly with the data now coming for the Omicron variant, it is very clear our vaccine for the Omicron variant should be a 3-dose vaccine.
If it's illegal for somebody to be like fat, as soon as they get to that weight, they are sent off to a boot camp and, what's wrong? Oh, am I advocating for like a concentration camp for fat people? But seriously though, what's the bigger deal? It's for the general population's entire health, and that would actually be affecting that would reduce so many deaths. That would save so many lives if we had government mandated boot camps.
Our view was we had to reach those individuals, and you see we have really high rates there for those groups. But at the same time, we also knew that because we were targeting those who had underlying illnesses, we know we have more.
What's their illness? Can you be more specific, please? I want to know. Can you name those underlying illnesses and what's their causes?
I'm sorry, you're over me.
This is our opportunity to build an economy that works for everyone, to keep creating decent jobs, to upskill and train our people, to protect our environment and address our climate challenges, to take on poverty and inequality, to turn all of the uncertainty and hard times into cause for hope and optimism. It's an opportunity we have already grabbed and a plan we have laid out to invest in the infrastructure that sets us up for generations to come while creating thousands of jobs. New state homes to house the homeless, 100% renewable electricity generation, free trades training and interest-free loans for small businesses to expand and to thrive. Our plan is already in action and already working. But after this result, we have the mandate to accelerate our response and our recovery, and tomorrow we start.
Hindsight is 2020.